If you disabuse yourself of hate, then you would know that African sexuality has always been diverse. What the global village has done through the internet is simply to unveil this for us. You don't want to miss the interesting conversations on Demystifying the African Sexuality podcast. The DAS Podcast. Alright, this is part 3 of the DAS Podcast, and today we're talking about femininity and masculinity and the Gaydar matrix. Now, we still have Guy and Sanie over here. Let me find out from you two. Could you define the Gaydar phenomenon, and how accurate is the Gaydar, as they say?
Me first. I believe this is your ability to see and recognize people of your kind, people that you can relate to. In terms of its accuracy, I think it's pretty accurate.
Really?
But yeah, wait a minute. Wait a minute. However, it doesn't give you a couple of things that, like, it doesn't equip you enough to go and approach, to go and assume, but it gives you enough of an idea of what to expect. So you collect your expectations and wait to either be disappointed or not.
I genuinely think that the Gaydar is bullshit. I believe in somebody talking to me about their sexuality. I'm not going to assume. That is actually encouraging stereotypes. The Gaydar is just a bunch of stereotypes put together. It's you telling yourself what you want to believe about somebody whom you have not yet interacted with. So, I don't...
Okay, let me put it like this. It's like your intuition. You know, how you kind of feel it within you that what I feel is correct. You know? So I guess what's happening is the perspectives in which we are seeing it. I believe it comes from within, and you think it's something physical.
It comes from within your heart, your mind, because I believe you're talking about the Gaydar. Like, I can look at somebody, their composure, their postures, how they talk, how they express themselves, and I'm going to assume, because it's an assumption.
Yes, it's an assumption, one, but it's also knowing.
Knowing, that is somebody telling you it's not your Gaydar. Somebody's supposed to come and tell you, hey, my name is Sanie, I'm a lesbian. That's how you know, not by your intuition.
Yeah, but then there's also another way in which you know, which is by me just seeing you and knowing, and I am equipped for this.
Earlier, we talked about this. We said we will look at some people who are maybe feminine males and assume they are in the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, but that's why I say that it is pretty accurate, but that doesn't mean that what you feel is correct.
Accuracy has to go with correct.
All right.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So still talking about the Gaydar, is it an ability exclusive to LGBTQ plus persons, or can a parent actually identify that their child is queer using the so-called Gaydar still?
No, the parents don't really have a Gaydar in them. They don't. They are going to use her method, which involves seeing attributes. Omana CBMVD, I gotta ring, he's putting on earrings. That's what they'll use to start, assuming. What was the first thing again?
So is it exclusive to LGBTQ plus persons?
No, the reason why I think it's exclusive is because of this is a skill that you develop over time, and it starts from when you're like really young. You notice you're different, then you start to have to be selective with which boys are safe, which girls are safe, and avoiding all the loud and violent ones. Now that eventually, if none of that is happening, you'll isolate yourself. So what happens once you're in isolation, you start to long for something. You start to want, to be around your tribe of people, things that are relatable. So you open yourself up. and you open yourself up so much so that even the slightest movement is going to be telling something. Now, if a bunch of you guys are, all that open, and any slight thing is trying to send a communication somewhere, then definitely this skill is going to come into play. I'll sit down and look in that room and be like, that one. As much as it is an assumption,
yeah,
half of the time, actually 90% of the time, it's on point.
I personally do not believe in the Gaydar so much that I even separate sexual activities with sexual orientation. I can be with a girl, sexually active with a girl, and she does not come.
But the thing is, girls have that free ticket to just self-express anyhow.
No,
something that men don't have.
We are not going to get into a conversation of sexual activities. But if somebody has not identified themselves as gay, you do not know what people think.
Many times guys be saying no homo, and then they are just telling lies.
No. If somebody tells you something, believe it. Don't go around speculating about your gaydar. If somebody tells you no, believe them.
Yeah.
I've been around gay people who are asexual. They are gay and asexual. And because they're around the community and you've not seen them dating anyone, you want to assume they're lying? No. If I told you I'm a pan-lesbian and you see me running around with every dude I see, mind your business. I told you I am pan. So that doesn't take me out of the spectrum. I believe the gaydar actually sometimes creates a lot of assumptions, a lot of speculations that are not facts.
Yeah.
I prefer facts.
I think it's just a method of identifying each other.
Okay. All right. So recently, a media personality whose name is withheld said that they can notice their child being gay using character. Now, into the next question, let's talk about symbolism and queerness. Things like jewelry, talk about dress code, hairstyle, language. How connected or disconnected are such things to queerness? And is that what the gaydar is about?
No, the gaydar is definitely not about anything physical or something from the outside. I believe the gaydar is something from within.
You talked about collective trauma. That is collective trauma. Exactly. He said if when you see somebody who is also isolating themselves, that is collective trauma.
No. Exactly.
So you add the collective trauma to the dress code and the way they're expressing themselves.
That is not even it. Because the gaydar will show you what you need to see without someone being dressed in some type of way.
Even as a parent, I believe that you wait. You wait until somebody is ready to discuss their sexual orientation.
As a parent, you are expected to wait.
Even as a friend. Even as anything. I'm not supposed to walk into this room and assume anyone's sexual orientation.
I need you to get back to the question. I feel like we're getting a bit off. So we're talking about symbolism and queerness. We're talking about jewelry. We're talking about dress code, hairstyle, and language. How connected or disconnected are these things when it comes to queerness? And is that what the gaydar is about? That you'll see probably this guy has dyed hair, and you assume because of your gaydar that this person is gay, or this person has piercings on the nose and the whatever, and then you assume that they are queer in a way.
No, like I said, physical attributes have nothing really to do with the gaydar. Nothing, at least for me, because I will know without seeing how you're dressed.
How will you know without seeing?
That's why I said it's something you feel. Anyone else who hears me will understand what I mean when I say it's something you feel. Do we think that
a blind person has the gaydar?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not going to even disagree a lot, but I believe that these symbolisms were actually created from a collective trauma. The pain, the people who have a lot of piercings, usually it is an expression of pain, of childhood trauma. So sometimes you can assume that, but that is just psychological. Our mind just tells us, I have gone through this, I've dealt with this in a way as a coping mechanism. So if this person is also presenting as me, there is a chance they are LGBTQ.
I believe it's just a different way of saying of attraction. Yeah, a different kind of attraction that that everyone else will call attraction, and then we'll call it a gaydar, you know. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I could put on rings and everything, and rings and necklace and jewelry and pearls and all that, and that will have nothing to do with anything.
What
Aside
everybody
from-
calls a gaydar, in my opinion, is years and years of trauma and different coping mechanisms and ways of trying to tell each other apart, ways of trying to get to know each other, and later the people think it's an intuition. It's just a reflection. You see yourself, you see your pain, or you see a story, you know, then you see it in someone else, and then you're like, okay, that's my people.
Okay.
But it is psychological. It is not factual.
I kind of hear you when you say that. Because there's always, like I said, it's a skill, it's a journey, it's something that you develop over time, and you get to get good at it.
Okay, so does a man's femininity or a woman's masculinity inform the gaydar? I want you to relate this to, you know, like sports or like all sorts of work. You'll find that somebody will be considered masculine because they play football, and yet somebody can be feminine and love and play football at the same time. So I don't know, how does this play out according to you, to the two of you?
Somebody who has dealt it a lot from the field of football, yeah, it's actually a big, huge stereotype. There are actually very, very straight people who are in ladies football. Very many. And there are people who have been pushed into being lesbians in the field of football, and the whole time they're bisexual. They're bisexual women, and they want to be expressive with men, and they want to have kids, but because this stereotype and agenda has already been pushed on them, they find themselves cornered. Yeah.
I think in the workspace, the biggest problem comes from the fact that, again, work has been gendered. Men's work, women's work. So that means if you are going to find, I remember back in the day when I was still young, we didn't have many hairstylists that were men, and then when one actually came along, it was newspapers, TV appearances and all that, and I'm just thinking, it's hair, like, I mean, you know. And then there's a whole, you know, weekend spread in the newspapers about women's opinions about, you know, men doing their hair, and how some of them are like, oh, we like it when men do our hair, they are better, they are not rude and mean and all that. But it was all a stereotype. So a lot of the times you're going to find these things where you are going to do a certain type of job, and people are going to assume that, oh, because you're doing their job, you're this type of way. And I think in the other question, we missed out a lot of things about the symbolism of some of the things that end up making you creating a misconception, because people already have a certain stereotype. So I'm going to be doing a certain type of job, and they'll expect that, oh, he's gay, so he has to dress like this, he has to do this, he has to do that. And the moment I don't do that, then there's something wrong. He's fake. Does he truly do those things? Can he? Then they'll come, and, you know, curiosity will just go in overdrive. Then
you find a lot of people who actually cross into those work aspects, like women working maybe in police or anywhere, like literally women working anywhere. When they find these aspects of sexual harassment, they decide to hide in a sexual orientation because it's already stereotyped. They're like, oh, I'm in police, but because my boss wanted to hit on me and I don't know what to do, I just start being like, I have a girlfriend. Yeah, I'm a lesbian now. Because it's already a lot of stereotype around those works and masculinity and femininity. And it's a little bit hectic.
Yeah. As we move forward, a pastor in Kampala was seen on TV identifying symbols that mean a person is queer. Does that pastor have a gaydar?
In Kampala right now, church is business. There is a lot of propaganda because somebody will pick the topic that is hottest, and then they will run their mouth about anything, even when they know literally nothing about the community. Because as members of the community, we are respectful enough to wait until you tell us your sexual orientation. Then We don't make assumptions.
All right, let's wrap this up. What role do you think culture and media play in shaping perceptions on masculinity, femininity, and the gaydar as well?
This is conflict of interest because I watch a lot of BL series. I think the way media portrays LGBTQ community, sometimes 70% of the time they emphasize the stereotypes. They emphasize the stereotypes. I think the people who are writing these stories don't even sit down and listen to queer people and ask them what exactly is going on in your life. And different queer people from different regions and different areas, we have different problems and we are portrayed differently. We are supposed to be involved directly. The media is supposed to sit down with the queer people and ask them what actually happens on ground, because you don't make assumptions. That's why we have a pastor on TV talking about we have gaydars and signs of knowing. You get it? Yeah, but at like 30%, actually queer representation has helped a lot on addressing queer problems by queer people in queer communities. Yeah,
I believe there are some media outlets that have made really brilliant progress in representation and how they portray, queer people nowadays compared to before. And even the TV shows that are coming up are becoming more sensitive to not pushing certain stereotypes, of like drugs and promiscuity or recovering from something, or and this has played a very, very, very big part in how society, perceives the
LGBTQ community and how we personally look at ourselves.
But then, Lord, I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry, umanyi oluzungu tutokedde lungi naye nze ngamba media houses ezimu they are favorable. I remember that interview where somebody called somebody to the platform and is trying to ask them a question. This is supposed to be a respectable exchange. You're a reporter and you just go, why are you gay? Okay, what do you expect me to say? Because that is an attack. That is not an interview. You're not respecting me. You just call me to humiliate me. So in Uganda per se, the media in Uganda has not really been favorable, or there is a certain agenda everybody's trying to push, but we are making progress, which is a good thing.
I feel like also it has created an environment where everyone is a survivor. We're really trying to survive their mess that we are not living, really, because anytime you leave, you don't know. The media might just decide to switch that up in an angle that and then the next thing you know, your point of focus with some pastor discussing your life like as if they know you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. That has been part 3 of episode 4 of the DAS podcast. We'll meet in part 5.
You don't want to miss the interesting conversations on demystifying the African sexuality podcast. The DAS podcast.